Hi, I'm Adrienne, and today we're going to talk about applying color successfully in the interior. So I'm going to show you examples of how different designers use colors in their interiors. So here we have the hallway of the penthouse project that I did a couple of years ago in London in a new build apartment building. And this was for some international clients. They were from India. I never met the clients. I always worked through their personal assistant in London. And they wanted a very contemporary space, and they wanted it to reflect the colors of London, they said. So, what did they mean by the colors of London? So, I walked around London, and I very quickly understood that the colors of London are grey and black and white and red. So, we have the grey rain, and the white sky, and the black taxis, and the red buses, and the red phone boxes. So these are the colors of London. So I thought these are the colors that I would use. So here we see a chromatic hallway, gray and white, and red used as the accent. I put red in different areas. So the door is here, and you're drawn coming to the space. Same project, this is also the hallway, and the stairs existed already. So they stayed, and I have red art, and then I put red and some art on the stairs, so it leads you up the stairs. And we go up the stairs into this open plan living room, dining room, kitchen. And again, the colors of London, gray, black and white, and I used red again. And then this is the furniture here. It has the red inside. So you can see a little bit of red is all you need. You don't need a lot. Your eye will automatically go to that color. The close-up of the sitting area. That went through into a hidden toilet, red, that's the color. And again, another view of the room, the sofa, slippy art, coming up the stairs, I had made leather, it was a leather artist, and I put the bar here, mirror, so that it would look like it was a window. Stools made in the same red. So remember, when I spoke about accents, it's good to use the same accent,
not the tints, tones, and shades. So this is another area in the space, the dining area, and you can see here the red that I have put in the rug. Now I designed rugs for the apartment, especially for this job. And what I did is I went out and I took a lot of pictures all around London, of the urban area of London. And this was a picture of some graffiti that I saw on a grill. And it was a photograph I took, and then I brought it to a carpet company, and I had them make a rug with the graffiti in it. So it was a unique rug that I had designed for this project. I chose all the gray colors. And I chose the red so that it was exactly the same red that I was using in all the furniture. And then you can see from the kitchen area, again, I chose the dishes, I chose the kettle, I chose all of these things for the client, and I chose them to have the red. So I was bringing through this color everywhere as the accent color. the view from outside on the balcony. So I used the red and the cool gray colors in the public areas of this apartment, but in the bedroom areas I used a softer palette. So I used very warm grays here and some very warm taupe colors. So you can see this gray, it's much more yellow in it. It's quite warmer than the cool gray I was using upstairs in the living room. And here this is a neutral room. And I haven't used any color here. I just kept it very textural and kept it very neutral. So it's very calming for the clients when they came home. And this was the bathroom, the master bathroom, part of the bedroom. And I kept the color palette coming through, the warm taupe colors and a bit of the warm gray color. So, and I had all of this polished plaster done. So it was reflective to reflect some light around the space and made it feel very elegant, very luxurious. And this was the guest bedroom, the flat. Again, I used this warm palette of grays and a sand color. This was an interesting wallpaper I used in both rooms, which had little bits of stone, shiny stone. So if you felt it, it felt like, stone. So it's lovely and textural. And then here, I brought the red accent that I used upstairs just to bring some accent in with a throw here. And this was the teenage girl's bedroom, and she wanted, very trendy room. So again, I used black and white and gray, and I used the red as the accent color. Close-up. Again, it was the same type of wallpaper, but in a dark gray color. And you can see how the light shone on the stone, and it made a very lovely textural quality. So when you do have these achromatic and neutral rooms, you certainly can bring in accent colors, for sure, but also you need to bring in the texture. Now, this is another project I did, a different client, some English clients, another penthouse in London, near the Tate Gallery. And here we have the entrance hallway. Now, this was a problem area because there was no natural light in this area as you came in. It had been painted white, but it was very boring. You came in and just didn't have any character at all. So I thought, well, if we put this lovely polished plaster in this quite bronze effect, so very warm type of color, it would be very inviting as you came into the space. It would bring some light and warmth into the space. So I had this special polished plaster done, and I had a rug woven in a similar color. And I did this design to make this quite an appealing area as you came in, and make it also feel very, very luxurious as well, and contemporary. And then I used a lot of white in the space in very contemporary shapes. So I chose these chairs here for the kitchen, which relate, these interesting curves relate to the lamps in the hallway. And the lights I chose to have the gold interior to go with the yellow accents. So we have a lot of warm yellow tones from the hallway into the kitchen. And then the kitchen and the living room are open plan, so I continued the yellow as an accent, but I remember, of course, that the opposite color of yellow on the color wheel is purple, violet. So I thought I'll make a complementary scheme here. So I have yellow as the accent, same yellow, and then I've used a very dark violet purple color on the walls and then some of the upholstery. So here we have purple being the dominant color of the complementary color, and the accent 10% yellow. So this is the dining area. From, if I go back to the previous picture, we have our living area here, and then the dining area is right here. So you could see it when you're sitting in the living room. It was all open to that space. So I continued the yellow as the accent into this area to make a connection. And I've kept all the other colors very achromatic gray and white. Because you can see how industrial the environment is. They're building here at the time the new Tate Gallery, and this is the Thames River down here, and this is part of the structure of the building. So I wanted to keep a little bit of that very urban feel of the design. So this is a close-up of the dining room, and you can see again close-up the yellow leather chairs, and I chose some vases that had the yellow, same yellow. I had these made with the same color, and this is relating to the yellow in the curtains out on the other side. And again, the view into the kitchen. So this yellow is connecting through the whole space. And in the kitchen, it's just some lemons and a little bit of yellow in the light. And the bottom of these curtains had yellow as well. So a very simple palette. You know, using color doesn't have to be complicated. The colors I used in this flat were achromatic color scheme, gray, white mostly. They had the neutral flooring there already. And then I chose to use yellow as the accent. And when I wanted to add a bit more color, I remembered that purple is the color of opposite yellow on the color wheel, so then I used the complementary color scheme in the living room. And then in the master bedroom, we brought purple in here. There's a slightly different color of purple, bright color. And I used kind of a yellow-green color on the cushions, which I brought through from the curtains here. Now this window just stopped here. Okay, it wasn't the whole way, but I thought that if I put the curtain here, it would make you think that the whole wall is a window. This is actually wall here. So by putting the curtain all the way here, it makes you think it's a much bigger room, a much bigger window. So a little bit of a psychological trick. And like I did before in the other spaces, the kitchen with the white, the lamps in the hallway, very sculptural. I used a lot of very bright white, sculptural, textural for the bed and the lamps. And now the exception in this space for using the color is the study, was the study. Now it was a small room, and instead I used a triadic color scheme of bright blue, bright yellow, and bright red. Now why did I choose a different color scheme? Well, I still have the bright yellow, which is the linking factor, so I am linking it to the rest of the space. But the reason was, really, the clients were from Wales, they were Welsh, and they were very proud of the tartan of their family. Now, in Britain, if you're from Scotland or Wales, many families have this plaid tartan material, which is a symbol of their. And this was the tartan of the husband, ancient tartan. So he said, I want to have this tartan in this room. So I made a Roman line from the tartan, and in the tartan I could see it had red, blue, and yellow. So from this I decided I would have the triadic color scheme. So sometimes your clients will give you information that you'll use for your interiors, and in this case, this being given this tartan from the client, I understood that, okay, I will create the colors in this space based on the colors of this tartan. And in this room as well, I had the shelves built in. I designed these shelves, and I painted the wall behind the shelves in the dark blue to really show the shape of these shelves, which I thought was a a nice detail in a small room. So in the guest bedroom in this same apartment, I decided to bring the blues. I had brought the blue in here, bright blue, but I decided to continue blue into the guest bedroom to make a little bit of a link, but make it a very soft blue color, which makes it very easy to live with. If you remember the previous talk about blue being very calming and tranquil, so it's a great color for bedrooms. I kept the background very white and just had very soft blue as the color of the space. Now, this is a different designer, Daniel Hopwood, very good designer in England. He is the head of the British Institute of Interior Design. He's on television quite a bit as well. And so we'll look at how he's used some color in this project. And he has used it as an accent in different spaces. Okay? So here we have a little sitting room. And it's quite a neutral environment. It has the gray, a chromatic, and a neutral, mixing the two. Most of the background is the neutral or the achromatic, but he's decided to use very bright mustard yellow as the sofa, so it becomes the focal point, and then in some accents in the space. So once again, your eye is engaging. There's a bit of yellow in the Maryland picture, the gold color of the lamp. Here's some glass here, 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 here. So the eye is going around the room, finding the connections of this yellow color. And then in another area, we have a little study area, and he has connected it with the sitting area again by using the yellow colors. So an accent color can be very effective connecting open plan spaces together and making them feel unified by just continuing the accent color through the space. And in the same apartment, we have the kitchen. Again, he has the yellow color here, but now it's kind of a very warm yellow, starting to go a little bit into the soft orange color. And when he's looking at the color wheel, he sees what's the opposite of these colors, and the opposite is blue. So he's used a complement here. So he's now brought the blue through as the main part of the complement, and yellow as the accent. So in the sitting area, the dining area from this kitchen, he's chosen a very warm yellowy wood, and the lights here are the yellow, and we go down the stairs into the sitting area, and you will see the yellow coming over here as well, with a very dark blue. So if you remember, the kitchen had this blue and yellow, and then you pass by this table, and you come down and you see a dark blue and yellow. So although he's changing things, it's a dark blue instead of a lighter blue, but it's still complementary. Now, the actual complement of blue is orange, but yellow and blue is considered one of the exceptions, where yellow is also considered a complement of blue. And I think this is because we see see the sun with the sky, and we're used to seeing blue and yellow together. So it's considered a complement of each other. So you can see very clearly here, coming through, and the blue, and again a warm yellow wood here, so and some yellow accents. So we see the color scheme coming through. And just to add some element of surprise, because you can't always make things too strict, he's added this very pink-purple neon, which is reflecting around the space in a very interesting way, which starts making it quite analogous. So you have the pink and the yellow and the blue making it quite an analogous scheme. But you will only see that color when the neon is on. Otherwise, you just see the blue and the yellow. And then a bedroom in the same flat. Again, he's used the blue and yellow in a different way here. A more steely blue color, and then the golden yellow as the accent. So he has brought this through the apartment as a connecting idea, the color scheme. And going through into the dressing room, he's used the yellow coming through as a linking factor. And into the bathroom, he's chosen the brass finishes, which is a yellow color. So you get the connection going through to the whole space. So metal is a color as well. Brass and gold is yellow. Silver and stainless steel is gray. And copper is orange. So these are the colors of those metals in a space. And a guest bedroom in the same apartment, once again, he's used the blue and the yellow, blue being the major color, and yellow the accent color. So it's interesting, when you understand color harmonies, you can create different looks in an apartment or a house, but if you keep a consistency with accent colors or using complementary colors, you can create unity as well. And then just a little area in the landing, little place that you usually don't know what to do with. He's put this little seating area, and once again a very dark blue with this very rich yellow to make it a very welcoming area to sit and maybe read a book. And then Kelly Hoppin, different designer, very, very popular international designer from London. She's known for this very contemporary style. And she likes to use neutral colors and achromatic colors. This is her style she's known for. So in this case, she's used achromatic color scheme, white and gray, with a black. But she's used this very dark red as the accent, and she's put it outside as well, on the balcony. So she has it inside, but outside as well. So you draw the eye outside, it makes you feel the furniture outside as part of the inside as well. And in the same apartment, she's used this very dark red in the study. If you remember my small study I did that I painted the wall dark blue behind the white shelving, she's used the same idea to paint behind the shelving here in a dark red. So when you paint behind shelving like this, it draws your eye into that space more and creates depth behind the shelving. And if you make nice thick shelving, you really make it a very sculptural look. You can see in more detail here. And then even in the hallway, achromatic, but she chooses the accents carefully. Very easy just to choose the flowers in the right color, to continue the accent through. Now, this master bedroom in the same apartment, very Kelly Hoppen style, very neutral colors, a very warm gray here. It's gray, but very, very warm gray. You think, well, there's no other colors. A little bit of green for the plants, but no other colors, but you'd be wrong, because here she is again. Very subtly, she has used this red in the furniture here, a little flower here. So she's picked up this accent and she's brought it through in a very subtle way in this space. Now, this is another apartment she's done, different apartment. Again, very modern, Kelly Hoppen style, very sleek. She's used a white and a very warm, neutral wood here, some grays, but then she's used this mango orange color as the accent color. And like a good accent use, she has brought the eye around the space. It's going from the chair to the vase, to the vase, to the cushion, to the wall, to the cushion. So your eye is going around the whole space. And finally, we'll look at the designer Natalia Mayer in Britain, in London. And she uses color in a very creative way. Now here we have an achromatic hallway, grays, yes, blacks and grays. But she's just chosen an analogous selection of flowers together to create an interesting color punch in the hallway. Now this can be changed quite easily. You can just choose then to have red flowers or blue flowers. But here, by choosing these analogous colors next to each other on the color wheel, she's created quite a fresh look in the hallway. And now this is a living room that she has designed. So she understands color, but like Picasso, who obviously knew how to create art, she breaks a lot of the rules. Now that's the thing about design. When you understand the rules, you can then, when you have enough experience, you can start breaking the rules. But it's then all about balance. So here, she has many different colors happening, and they're not following any of the color rules. She's got pink, she's got bright green, she's got orange, she's got some blue. So what she's got the orange and blue complementary over in this part of the room, and she's got the pink and the green complementary on this part of the room. She has two complementary schemes happening. This is a very experienced designer who's understanding how to mix two complements in a room. It's a very rare thing to do because it can look very confusing. But she has linked it by using a lot of gray and black and white. And by using a lot of pattern. So your eye looks at the pattern first, and the colors are little incidental things. So this is like very sophisticated use of color. But it's good to see how very experienced designers start then playing with the rules. Now this is a little bit clearer, same designer Natalia Mayer, and here she has used complement. So we have our blue with our yellow. Very clear with our achromatic gray and white background. Yeah, that's very clear. And here, achromatic. So I was saying before how popular achromatic interiors have become. Blacks, whites, and grays. You can see it, and particularly when you use pattern, it really enlivens the black and the white and the gray. So this is an achromatic interior, and she's just used a plant for a little bit of accent over there. Here she has a little sitting room, and she has used very interesting combination of analogous colors. She's used a lot of analogous colors. So So normally people will use about 3, but she's got, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. She has yellow, she has orange, she has pink, she has red, she has, where are we going? We have purple, we have blue. It's almost, she's used almost every color to create this analogous room scheme. But look, she has used gray in the background as the calming neutral background. And the other thing is, do you notice that the colors she's used are all fully saturated colors? They're all the brightest version of those colors. So that is another linking factor with the colors, that they are all the same intensity. Now, this is a bedroom she's designed, more subtle. Again, complementary scheme here. Dark blue as your main color, and the orange as the accent color. So, we wouldn't normally use orange in a bedroom because it's so vibrant, but because she has done mainly dark blue with the neutral white background, using a touch of the orange just adds a little bit more excitement into the space. And then here we have a sitting room that she's designed, again, using a complementary blue and orange color scheme. So we have our very steely blue color here, and we have our bright orange here. She's brought some orange up into the blind as well. And finally, a bedroom that she's designed in a very warm gray, achromatic color scheme. And what she's done is used a great deal of pattern now in order to connect it all together. And she's used a very gold yellow here and in the metal here to just enliven the gray, but she has really used a lot of pattern and texture, which we'll talk about in another lecture. Hi, I'm Adrienne Chin, and in this talk I'm going to look at effective ways to use neutrals and achromatic color schemes in interiors. So let's look at neutrals first. So neutrals, as you already know, are any color that lacks a strong chromatic content. So it's a color that is not on the color wheel. So it's said to be unsaturated, and it's one of the natural colors that you see of the earth. So these include brown and tan and taupe and beige, sand, cream, and off-white. These are our neutral colors. So these are very popular colors to create restful interiors because there are no stimulating hues here. It's all very calm and very relaxed. But you have to be very careful when you do a neutral interior that you're not using all the same kind of texture, that everything is smooth or everything is rough. You have to vary the texture in order to create an interesting interior. And you can also bring in some pattern. Here you can see pattern here, and in the rug. It's still in neutral colors, but it brings in, again, some additional interest in the space. But I think you would agree that this looks like a very appealing room that you would really want to just curl up on the sofa and really relax. So this is a very effective use of many textures in a neutral interior. Now this is a very contemporary neutral scheme by the designer Kelly Hoppin. So finishes, but there is still a variety. You have the shiny here, and then you have something that is a bit more textural, like it's a stone effect. And here we have a wool on the sofas, and then we have some satin on the cushions. So it's a more subtle use of different textures, but the textures are still there. And it gives a much more sleeker, contemporary look. And here we see another contemporary scheme, and here it's a neutral achromatic. What I mean by that is that the grays are very warm gray, and they're mixed with some neutral colors, this very light beige wood here, and this is a very light beige wall here, which is a stone effect. But again, you see a variety of textures. Here you see some wool on the rug, you see this lovely sheer in the windows, you have the glass here, you have overscale sizes, so we're bringing in lots of different textures. So really, when you create a contemporary neutral or achromatic interior, you do tend to use more smooth and reflective finishes, and when you do a more rustic, comfortable neutral interior, you tend to have a lot more rougher textures and wool textures, things like that. Here's another contemporary neutral scheme where you can really see the natural wood in the ceiling and floor, and the designer has chosen this coffee table that is very similar to the ceiling. So you bring the eye down here, it balances the ceiling and your floor, and it's brought this warm wood color into a cushion here, so that's very nice, and then brought in some of the darker grays. So they've mixed the neutrals with the grays. And here again we have neutrals, these very soft beige colors, with this very dark brown wood here, and the circles are being repeated in the design in order to bring your eye around the space. So just like an accent color works, shapes work the same way. So if you bring in circles, your eye will go around, you're looking for the circles here. And they've done a very effective use of having some lacquer finish on the coffee table, which contrasts with this very silky wool rug for a nice juxtaposition of the textures. Now this is a warmer looking contemporary scheme, a lot more texture and some self-pattern here in the very warm brown cushions, lovely texture here on the wall, and we've got a repeat of a geometric pattern on the floor, and we have a little bit of accent color brought in with some yellow, a little bit of orange in the picture. But primarily it's again a very neutral space with beiges and taupes and creams. Now this is a retro neutral scheme, and what we mean by retro is that we have furniture that has a design from the 50s and 60s in the Bertoya chair here. This again is a very 60s style chair. We have these 1970s style bar stools here. But then we know it's not a retro interior because of its use of the neutral color, which really started in the 1980s. And with, you know, eclectic details like this plaster stag's head, which becomes quite a focal point in the space. Now another modern neutral. So neutral really does lend itself to contemporary modern interiors. And it looks very sleek. And here we have one by designer Steve Young from Hong Kong, and he has done a very sleek design, but he's warmed up the neutrals with this very yellowy toned wood that he's brought around the apartment. So your eye is traveling around the apartment following these lines of the wood. And then he has a textural wool on the sofas. And he has put leather, white leather on the wall, another texture. The shears on the windows with some silk. And he's added a few accent color yellow, which tones with your yellow wood. again, like an accent color and like shapes in a room, if you have a little bit of pattern, your eye will go to that if the rest of the room is plain. And in the same way, your eye immediately goes to this because it has pattern in it when the rest of the room is plain. So pattern can act like a focal point or an accent in a room. It doesn't always just have to be color. Here's a very lovely classic room in a neutral scheme. So neutral doesn't have to just be contemporary or modern. You can have a classic design here in a neutral. But once again, you're mixing the patterns and the textures. We've got some velvet, we've got wool, we've got different self-patterned diamond-shaped wool and one with a geometric shape here. And then we've got this lovely patterned artwork as your focal point. And then a warmer neutral. So neutrals go from, as I said, creams right the way through to beiges all the way to brown. Any of those neutrals. So here we have Kelly Hoppen, who has had a more traditional interior. You can tell by the fireplace it's a traditional interior, but she's used neutral colors and very warm neutrals. And she has kept the chair leather and the leather on the lamps and the wall colors very similar in tone. And then she has just added a darker bit in the middle of the blind here. She's continued the color palette out into the living room to create a connection. And then she has added this very, very dark brown wood in order to balance the lightness of the neutral. So it's about balance as well when you're working with neutrals. And this one we've seen before. This was the bedroom I did for a client's penthouse. And again, these are very warm neutrals, slight gray, but very warm. And again, a lot of texture here. So I brought in this sheepskin on the floor. There's velvet on the curtains and shears. There's wool here. There is sateen wool. There is a very textural wall covering here. So while the tones are similar, you don't see any bluish tones here. It's all very warm. The textures are very different to each other. And this is one from Kelly Hoppen. Now, she normally does extremely contemporary, but here she's done a little bit more of a traditional style on the headboard, but a stylized version of a traditional headboard. But she has connected the color of the velvet here with the velvet on the bottom of these curtains. So she's made that connection. And then the rest of the room is a lot of cream and very light beige colors. Sometimes it can be interesting to use neutrals in an extremely traditional scheme because it's very unexpected to do that. Neutrals were not used in traditional schemes. In the Georgian and Victorian times, they always used color. So when you start using a neutral color and the rest of the furniture is very traditional style, it updates the whole style, even if you choose traditional pieces of furniture. So add texture in neutral interiors to create visual interest. Here, the designer's chosen to have a very rough piece of wood put in a very contemporary white kitchen in order to create a real feature, a real focal point in the middle of the room. And here, again, the same idea of using very rough wood. Here, a trolley used as a coffee table, and the rough wood used in a lamp. So it creates very interesting visual interest for your eye. Your eye will seek out these interesting textures. And by putting a very textural throw here, you're creating a bit of a triangle effect, which is very, very pleasing to the eye. And this is a ski lodge by the designer's Pearson Design. And again, very appealing. Now you would think in the wintry environment, if you have neutrals or achromatic, you can feel very cold because you think you might want to add color to add some dynamism. But here, because of the many textures they've used, on the heavily textured carpet and the faux fur on the chairs and the suede over here, the wood and the stone and the woven lamps and the shears, and you've got everything. You've got metal, you've got stone here, you've got concrete, polished plaster. So they've used so many different textures, but in a very soft, warm, neutral and achromatic color scheme. That is just very appealing. So texture and pattern are important in interiors, neutral interiors. Here you can see the pattern in the rug adds real focal point and visual focus in this room. It's a little bit busy, I have to say. There's a lot going on, but that's fine. This is somebody who's probably a traveler and a collector, and they collect a lot of different elements, but they've kept the palette a neutral palette, and that's the thing that's holding it together. Once again, we see a traditional room, very traditional style bed, traditional furniture, traditional type of window treatment, but in a neutral palette, and that updates it. Now, achromatic colors are the colors white and through gray to black. And these are becoming extremely popular, have been popular for the last 5 years certainly, and growing in popularity. And when we have these achromatic schemes, they're extremely contemporary. You have to be careful because they can feel very sterile, a little bit cold. So you have to really play with textures and pattern. And it's quite nice to add a little bit of color as well. It just really lifts these achromatic interiors. So what they've done here, very gray and white interior, dark gray floor, and using pattern, black and white and gray and white pattern. But they've warmed it up with a little bit of warm wood furniture here, this very warm tan-colored leather. Instead of, if that was a gray leather, it would feel very flat, and just a little bit of the yellow flower. Now, here's a white room, a loft conversion, and there's a problem with this space that I hope you can see now. It's all exactly the same shade of white. It's all very bright white. There's no variations in the white. It's all shiny as well. Everything you're looking at here is reflective. The glass, the floor, the columns, the lamp. So what's happening is there's no definition in this space. There's no textural interest. So what you really need to think about is if you're doing a white space, it's very nice to vary the tones of the white. Some a little bit darker, some a bit lighter, some a bit yellower, and to certainly add a lot more texture. So here, let's look at this back one. So here we have a large room, all the same texture, very same white. Here you have a large room, lots of white, but look at the texture and what the difference makes. So here we have a lot of tones of white, See, this is a creamier white on the floor, still bright white here, but then we're mixing in a little bit of the warm neutrals and a little bit of gray and a little bit of pattern, you know, a little bit of pattern here, and it just adds a lot more interest to the space, much more welcoming. Now, here's a modern white scheme with gray accents. Again, just by adding a few of these soft gray velvets, and here's some fur, and here's a throw, and this fuzzy rug, it's just adding, it's lifting the interior. I think it could still have a bit more added to it texturally, but it's certainly much better than that white room we saw with all the shiny surfaces. And this is an eclectic white room. So somebody who likes to collect a lot of interesting things, they've kept a white palette, but there is variation in the whites. There's a creamier white, there's bright white, there's a white wood effect, and then they've broken it up in some nice neutrals with very aged appearance, and some wool here, and some fur, and twigs, so there's a lot of interesting texture, and I love the way they've put this huge oversized lamp in the middle of the room as a focal point. Here we have a classic contemporary white scheme. Looks very fresh, looks very attractive. Probably don't have children or pets, I would have to say, because it would be quite high maintenance, I think, to keep this clean. But maybe it's a couple and they entertain and they like this very crisp contemporary look. And again, what they've done is they've brought texture in with the throws and the rug. They've got shine here with the rough texture and a bit of pattern in the artwork. And in this room, what they've effectively done is created a triangle. So I'm going to repeat it again. If you can create triangles, visual triangles in a room, that's very satisfying to the eye. So here you can see you've got this lovely vertical here with the artwork, and it's going down to the two throats. And it's very similar colors with the grays, and it's creating this nice visual triangle, which is a very satisfying thing to the viewer. Here we have a very bright white room, so they haven't varied the white color, it's the same white everywhere, but they have added a bit of textural interest. So we have, instead of a bright white carpet or a floor, we have the nice tone of the wood on the floor, which warms up the space. And what also adds interest into the space is the designer has brought in some vintage items from the 1950s, and we've got this very vintage table here, which becomes quite sculptural in this white space. You really notice the intricate base. You notice the black light fitting here, nice without the shade, because you really look at this in a sculptural way, and then the black lines of this relate to the black lines around the picture of Humphrey Bogart, and again you have a vintage light up here with a very soft white shade. So we're adding these vintage items which do become quite sculptural in this white space. And again you can see how effective a bit of black looks when you have a white background. It really starts popping, and you see the lines of the black. So here we see the black of this ceiling light, which relates to this black light here, and the black around the coffee table, and these black vases, and a bit of black in the artwork. So in effect, in this room, black is the accent in this room. When you have this variety of the very creamy whites, and a little bit of this lovely textural brown, which softens the room, that black really pops. And here again, we have a white room with these black elements really popping. Here, a little bit of black in this room as well. So black can be so effective when you use it in an achromatic scheme like this. So here we have a traditional interior, and again, like we saw with the neutral traditional interiors, it's unexpected to see a traditional interior in an achromatic color scheme. You're used to seeing them with hues, with colors. So it really updates a traditional interior when you do it in an achromatic scheme like this. becomes much sharper and much more contemporary, even though the items are still traditional shapes and antiques. And here we have a classic contemporary achromatic scheme, again in a traditional room. You can see from the paneling, very traditional style, but they painted everything in a very soft satin gray color, including the ceiling. They've done an overscale chandelier here and over the dining table, and they've kept everything very low and horizontal because the ceiling is not too high, and kept it very soft. It's almost like it's morning dew, very soft room. And this could be quite nice in a south-facing room because it would be a room with a lot of sun coming in, and this would calm the room down. But you wouldn't do this in a north-facing room because it would look extremely gray and dull. Once again, we have a very white room with the walls and the ceiling and the furniture here. But when you do that, again, by having the black banisters and the black lamps and the tables and these items and the frames, you really notice black detail, much more than you would notice it in a colorful room. And here we have a contemporary achromatic scheme. And this works quite well. Achromatic works quite well in these type of style rooms. It looks appropriate. This might be students' flat, it might be a bachelor flat, something like this. Very practical, but again, interest added by the pattern on the wall. If that was just white, it would be a bit dull. And different texture on these cushions, and textural differences here with the curtains, the sheer and the long gray curtains there, but warmed up everywhere with this warmer color wood on the floor. Again, if that was a gray carpet, it would look very dull. So you have to add some balance in these rooms. And this is an effective use again of an achromatic scheme in a bohemian eclectic style. Once again warmed up by the tone of the wood on the floor, which really helps. A little bit of wood elsewhere, but everything else is different tones and tints and shades of gray. And here we have a modern version of an achromatic scheme. Very sleek, very modern, very contemporary, warmed up again by the floor, and some different texture here on the bed, and some pattern on the sofas. And we have classic contemporary gray, very sophisticated, once again a lot of pattern and texture. So I'm just repeating it, neutral schemes and achromatic, you need the pattern and the texture. But they can work in both contemporary and traditional styling. And once again here, we have the self-stripe in the gray. Notice the grays in this room are very blue-gray. Yeah. So as I said before, you choose warm grays or you choose cool grays, but it's best not to mix both together because they won't sit very well. And lovely textural concrete walls here, and we've got our marble stone on the walls here, adding a lot of texture, softness in the sofa, overscale lamp, which creates a focal point, some textural cushions, this nice white table in a different shape to counteract with all the squares and rectangles going on. So that's good. And your eye will go to the circle and to the circle. Now, you could decide to add some accent color in here. That might lift it. If you wanted a very industrial look, this is great, but maybe you could add some accent red, give it a different look, or some big green sculptural plants would give it a different look. So this is something as a designer you can consider. And then we've got a pattern, gray, black, white tile brought in as a pattern, but certainly warmed up with all this wood color. And a lovely bohemian eclectic whitewashed interior. Maybe it's a cottage by the sea, something very relaxed and very comfortable. Old furniture recovered in soft linens and rustic woods, so it just looks very appealing. But it's all a version of gray, and they're very cool grays here. This bathroom that I did in the penthouse job, achromatic scheme, lots of grays, but warmed up by the warmer stone color on the floor. And they're very dark and moody. Now, when you do paint the ceiling and the walls the same color, I've mentioned before, it starts expanding the space in a strange way. You don't see the corners. It's like you're in this cave and the cave goes on forever. So while it feels enclosed, you also don't see where the shadows of the corners are, which you would notice much more in a white room and be much more aware of where the edges of the space are. And it's even more effective if you paint the ceiling the dark color as well, because that starts disappearing. And here's quite an interesting thing in a hallway to add instant character. It might not be everybody's taste, but it's interesting what they've done. They've made the furniture disappear by having perspex chairs and a mirror table, so you kind of look through the furniture as well. So it's quite an interesting visual experiment doing the black and white stripe like this. And once again, the white, by choosing the black banisters, they've done black frames for the doors, black frames for the windows, a dark finish on the floor. These all become very sculptural elements in the space. And here, very stark black and white. So it's a classic look. And don't you see here, we painted all of the walls black, and they kind of disappear. You don't know how far back that wall is anymore. So especially when you put something bright in front of it, whether it's white or a bright color, that will advance towards you, and this black wall, you don't know how far away that is. So it's an interesting thing that happens when you paint a room in dark color. And just to show you some examples of the whole black and white idea is not a new idea. And it really did start with these type of black and white marble flooring, which first appeared in Georgian houses, this very classic black and white flooring. But now you see it brought through in this traditional room into the walls and the ceilings and the furniture as well. Here we have a traditional interior, a very focal point fireplace. So that can become the inspiration for the color scheme. So they pick the gray from the fireplace and put it on the paneling, which normally would have been painted a different color. And they brought in these very contemporary leather chairs, which juxtapose with this traditional fireplace. So it creates the triangle again. You've got this very interesting triangle going on here of something very traditional with two modern items. And it updates the whole traditional style of this room. And then finally, again, a ballroom that's been converted into a flat. And you can see the lovely paneling here, the old ballroom. And this has been painted the dark gray, the same gray on the sofa, this modern leather sofa. But once again, because of this dark color which they painted the ceilings, this room kind of disappears. It doesn't feel like it's enclosing in on you. So it's a very, very contemporary look. I like how they've put in very contemporary stairs here to counteract the traditional paneling. So something that's very successful to do in interiors is to mix contemporary items with traditional items, because you look at both differently then. So I hope you've seen a little bit of what you can do with neutral and achromatic color schemes. You can really add a lot of character to spaces if you know how to use texture and pattern in these kind of schemes. IGN and we're going to look at how light and geography affect color in this talk. So, natural light and electric light play a huge role in color perception, as we've seen earlier. And it's the color of the light that determines the color that your brain receives. It's the color wavelengths that your brain is receiving that will inform you as to the color that you're seeing. So at sunrise, everything has a yellowish cast to it because the sun is warmer as it's coming up. Noon, it becomes clearer, and then as the sun is setting, the light becomes whiter and cooler. So through the day, even on a sunny day, the light is changing depending on the hour of the day. Once the sun sets, you have a lot more shadow happening, so the light becomes grayer. It's the color of light that makes things appear to change throughout the day, even though the objects themselves remain the same. So a color that looks quite bright and clear in your room in the morning might look cooler in the afternoon because the quality of the light changes. So what I'm saying here is you need to consider the direction that the light is coming into the room through the window in order to understand how that light is going to affect the colors in your room. So the value and the intensity of a color are affected by the amount of the light hitting the color. In lower light, colors will appear much darker and less intense, less saturated. And as the amount of light increases, the value lightens and it becomes much more intense until you reach the actual true color of the item. However, too much light can wash an item out and make an item look much whiter and lighter than you might intend. The best way to find the right color that you're looking at when you're sourcing for a client is to look at the actual material in daylight. If you're looking at a shop under electric light, you're going to be affected by the quality of the electric light that is being cast on that piece of fabric or carpet. If it's LED light, it will probably be a whiter or bluer light, and if it's an incandescent light, it will be yellower, so it will have a different effect on how you perceive that fabric. So always look at the sample in the same plane as it will be applied. So if it's a carpet, look at it horizontally. And if it's a fabric you're going to use for curtains, hold it up, because the fabric will look different if you're looking at it vertically than if you're looking at it horizontally, because of the way the light will hit that item. So in north-facing rooms, let's look at this. These are in the northern hemisphere. In the north-facing room, the natural light can vary greatly depending on the weather, the season, the time of the day, the position of the sun in the sky, whether you've got trees outside the window which are screening the light. So there is a lot of many factors that can affect the quality of the light coming into the space. So light that enters a room from the north will cast a cool, bluish tint to the space. Colors will always appear darker and less saturated because the natural light is quite indirect. So you may want to compensate by choosing a paint color that is light and more intense. As I've said before, in a north-facing room, it's an idea to use warmer colors, like you see the orange here in this complementary scheme, which warms up the light in the space. The northern light tends to bring out the cooler tones in a color. So if you have a fabric or a paint that has an undertone of blue in it, and you put it in a north-facing room, the color will look much bluer or much grayer, in fact. So it's good if you want to use, for instance, a green in a north-facing room, use a green that has quite a bit of yellow in it, because it will highlight the yellow in the green. If you use a blue-green, it will dull down the green and make it look much bluer and grayer in the space. The color of northern light is the most diffused light. It's the softest light. So traditionally, it's been very popular for artists to have their art studios in north-facing rooms because the quality of light is fairly consistent through the day. If you have a south-facing room, you have the light becoming very bright as it rises and softer as it goes, and that will affect an artist's studio quite a bit. So north-facing rooms have their advantages. So the color of the northern light is the most diffused and remains the most consistent through the day. So this is why the colors of your painting fabrics in a room with a northern exposure will remain consistent through the day. So in the morning and noon and the afternoon, the colors should look pretty similar through the day in a north-facing room. In small north-facing rooms, again, do something counterintuitive, and you might consider painting them a dark color, very dark color, because what that does is will change your perception of the room, and you will not see the shadows. If you paint a north-facing room white, you will see a lot of gray shadows in that space, and it will actually appear duller than if you paint a north-facing room a dark gray, because you don't see the shadows. Now, south-facing rooms are full of warmth. They've got light through the day, so all colors usually look quite good in this space. However, you might want to err towards using the cooler colors like blues and soft greens and violets in order to balance out the warm light that's coming in. So here we have a little dining area in a south-facing room, and it's just very cool and fresh, having the walls painted blue. If the walls were painted yellow, it would feel very lively, but maybe in the summer would feel too warm. Maybe it'd be lovely in the wintertime, but in the summer you might feel it feels too warm. I want to feel a bit fresher when I'm sitting and eating. So sometimes the light in the south-facing room can be too intense and glaring. So to solve this problem, sometimes you might consider going achromatic or neutral instead of using an actual hue, because this will neutralize the light that's coming into the space and make it feel cooler. Now, how about west-facing and east-facing rooms? West-facing rooms change dramatically during the day, as do east-facing rooms. They appear cooler in the morning because the light in a west-facing room is there in the afternoon. And so in the afternoon, the light is warmer. For a living room, where your client will be in the afternoon and the evening, in a west-facing room, you might choose colors that will bounce the light around in the afternoon. So for a breakfast room, you might use a cooler tone, like a mid-gray, as it won't be bright in the morning, and this could create a calm, cozy feeling. East-facing rooms, well, this is a room where you have the light in the morning. The sun rises in the east. So east-facing rooms, the light in east-facing rooms can look a little blue. So it's best to work with this and choose greens or blues, because the light will change so dramatically through the day. It's often good to team these with a darker tone on woodwork or furniture, as you see here, so that the walls appear lighter in contrast. So if you want to use a white paint, use one that has a slight green or blue base to it, which would give a slightly cooler effect if you're using the room in the morning. So in a way, you're doing the same thing in an east and west facing room as you do in north and south, except you think, what is the time of the day I'm using that room the most? So if it's an east-facing room, but you're using the room in the afternoon light will be more like a northern light. If you're using an east-facing room in the morning, the light will be more like a south-facing room, because that's when the light is there. So you might choose what colors you will put in that room depending on what time of the day you use the room the most. Now we were looking at natural light. What about artificial light? Because that changes everything. And it certainly affects how colors can appear because of the different light bulbs and the light they emit. So halogen and incandescent bulbs, the traditional light bulb, emit a very yellow light, as you can see here, which is a very flattering light because it is similar to sunlight, and it's what we've been used to having in interiors. When in an incandescent light, colors that have a very warm undertone to them look even better because the yellow light is bringing out that warm undertone. So this is perfect kind of lighting if you've got this very type of warm color scheme. Now, LED and fluorescent lighting emits a bluer light, so they work quite a lot better if you've got cooler colors in the space. So this is an interesting picture. You can see exactly the same room, but this is LED lighting, and this is incandescent lighting. And see how different you perceive the colors just because of the lighting. So LED will give a much grayer or bluer quality of light, and incandescent gives a much sunnier quality of light. So if you are designing for somebody who has a property in a new build, quite often they will have the LED lighting in, and that might affect your choice of the fabrics and the colors, because you might want to go more into the cooler colors, which will work with the cooler light. If you are lucky enough to be able to use incandescent light, this is the easier quality of light to live with because it is more like sunlight.